And we are live. My bad. We're gone for a couple days.
We're all
and
rusty.
We're already messing up. We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
Good. Trying to figure out why Twitter's not working, but I'm also not very productive this week, Blake. The video game came out. Everybody's talking about it justifiably, and I'm wasting a lot of free time. It's kind of deserved for how long we've been waiting for this damn thing to come out. You got to play it last night. You seem like you're enjoying yourself. I still can't believe you're playing as LSU as the first thing that you're doing. Come on.
Why wouldn't I?
I don't know. It just seems too easy.
First off, let's just get some easy. You ever play a schedule in the SEC? Nothing's easy about that.
Yeah, but recruiting. You were complaining to me about recruiting.
Well, nobody knows how to do recruiting. That's why their videos are going viral because everybody's having issues with the recruiting.
Right.
But I just want to say this. You have no business telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing after I beat you this past
All right.
By going for two, calling the perfect play call, and beating you live in New York on probably the biggest stage that we've either had live.
You and there were people in the chat who said this. You got lucky. You got very lucky. There were a number of people that said that a couple balls bounced your way, which did happen. You had a couple of crazy long throws that should not have been completed and probably would not have been completed in any other scenario. So I don't want to hear. We will rematch. We will rematch at some point.
But the better player controlled the sticks better.
No. You beat me by a 2-point conversion. Okay, we need to.
Joe, it doesn't matter.
We're gonna play each other again.
No, we're not. We are not playing.
No, you're not hiding from this. We're playing each other again. There is no hiding from this.
There's no way we're playing again. Elk sends a $2 super chat. Says, Joe, you're banned from using Ohio State ever again.
I knew that was coming. I played a damn good game, okay? I played a good game. I don't care what anybody says. I played my ass off. You got lucky on a couple of plays. That was why you won. That's why I want the rematch.
You can want it all. You can want it all you want. It doesn't matter.
We're playing each other again. Otherwise, I'm playing Ben, and he's representing you.
How bad would it be if you keep saying that about Ben and you don't understand how good he is on the sticks? You might lose.
I'm not losing to Ben.
Well, all I'm gonna say is here. Yes, you are, and Blake Ruffino is 1-0 on you when it comes to playing the new college football game. I got to admit something. I took out a lot of frustrations yesterday on the birthday. Joe, it's just like I got to play with LSU. I got to. I don't have a choice. By the way, Harold Perkins is unreal in the game. I got to admit, absolutely unreal. But you know what's interesting about this, Joe, is there's one thing that I hate about the game. Can I tell you?
What?
Kicking. I can't kick.
Oh, no. The kicking's not that bad. I figured out the kicking pretty quickly.
I can't figure it out.
Cody agrees with you, by the way. He sent us a super chat.
Cody McGee with a $4.99 super chat says, only issue I have in college football 25 is kicking and kicking field goals. Joe, I am not good at it.
I figured it out pretty quickly. The punting is pretty serviceable. You just can't over kick it, and you just have to aim a little bit. That's it. It just requires a little bit of touch. It is made to not be as automatic as it had been.
Well,
previously.
I wish they would make it automatic again because I come on.
They're trying to make the game as real as possible.
Well,
Damian
Ramos, the LSU kicker, is like 13 of 25 this season on field goals.
Also, Alex made a comment saying that, am I the only one who thinks Heisman actually feels like Heisman? I accidentally put my dynasty mode on Heisman, and I told you this in pre-production, I threw 6 picks and 3 pick sixes because I don't know the playbooks, I don't know the circumstance, and I'm not the only damn one. There are a lot of people on Twitter saying that the interception animations are brutal. Heisman's freaking hard. Heisman is too hard for me. I'm going to need a couple months of playing before I can jump up the Heisman difficulty.
I just played on varsity. I wanted to play and actually have fun doing it. I'm going to build my way up to getting to All-American. I want to have fun. Like
you sound like Sean in college, I would play in NBA 2K on the highest difficulty, and he lived underneath me, like, because we had a condo, and my room was above his, and he would always come up into my room because he would hear me screaming and shouting because I was playing on too hard of a difficulty and I was screwing myself up. So I'd rather suffer and get better at the game. That's how I'd rather go about it.
And I'm the opposite. I'd rather learn, have some fun while I'm doing it, and then go up when I think the time's right. So, anything else in the game that you like or didn't like, or what? Any other thoughts?
Elks gave us another super chat that's kind of in line with something that I said to you in pre-production. This is bothering me too. The timing and everything with trying to run option and do all of those things is brutal. It is so awkward that they changed it when it was so unnecessary to do so. It also looks like LSU got that corner that you were talking about. The one thing I will say, well, I know that you probably got to deal with that, but the one thing I will say that is really cool is just how immersive it is. Like, that was what was talked about and what we talked about from watching the trailers and what was discussed from anyone who had played the game early, was how real it felt and how it felt like you were like really in the stadium. It's pretty close to that. Like the level of detail, the graphics, everything looks so freaking clean and easy. And then it feels like you're down there on the field, running down on any given play. For anyone who's been on a football field in a packed stadium before, it feels pretty damn similar.
So there is one thing that I wanted to get to. So yesterday I was figuring out how to recruit. So I went on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I don't know the guy's name. I just wanted to know because I had like 3 commits in week 7. So it was getting off. I'm like, what is going on here? So I go down this EA Sports deep dive, and lo and behold, I get to this guy using like Florida. This kid is absolutely amazing with Billy Napier's playbook. I don't know if Billy Napier needs to hire this kid, but I 100% would hire this kid. By the way, he's going like on like All-American Heisman. The kid's got a 92% completion percentage rate with like 60 touchdowns and like 3 picks.
With Mertz or Lagway?
With Mertz. The kid is insane. I don't know
that is probably the most unrealistic.
It is the very most unrealistic thing, but nevertheless, okay, this kid's amazing. I got to find out his name. All right, we got much more to talk about. SEC Media Days. What are our biggest takeaways from there? Nick Saban's comments about Texas and the horns down. And Joe, we'll probably just talk about Texas and Oklahoma officially being at SEC Media Days. I thought Greg Sankey had some big statements. We'll talk about Kirby Smart as well. So a lot of SEC talk here tonight. Looking forward to getting into it with you here. Let's talk about our good friends, though, over at betonline.ag. Do us a favor. Hit the like and share to all those groups. If you're on Facebook, hit that subscribe button. If you're on Twitter, we're closing in on 7K subscribers. Wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're on Twitter, just hit that retweet for us if you don't mind. So about our good friends over at BetOnline, Joe and I discuss about SEC Media Days next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. All right. So, Joe, it's been a massive week. No, not us in New York City, which was absolutely fantastic. Love the food. Thank you for taking me around the city. Yeah. That was really fun. Just go to our socials. You'll see a lot of the stuff that we did there. I think my wife is going to make a video for me for all the stuff that she had taken. So we'll see. But it's been a big week. Not the biggest news of the week, obviously, was Mike Greenberg stopping me in the middle of the street and saying, "Hey, are you Blake Ruffino?" But,
yeah.
the other thing that us being in NYC was big this week is obviously SEC Media Days. Look, let me excuse me, start off. Well, I'll just ask you, what are some of the big things so far that you've taken away from SEC Media Days?
Yeah, I mean, there's just naturally a lot of chatter that's been coming from a lot of these coaches. I think the one big thing that stood out is Saban's role and the way that he has landed in all of this. Obviously, he retired. He's no longer Alabama's coach. So we didn't even totally know for sure if he was going to be on the set. And of course he is. And he has been what everybody has been focused on. Every single comment that he makes, everyone's hanging on to every single word. There is a lot of focus on Nick Saban and the way that he is talking about all of these coaches. And the funniest thing and the craziest part, and I think the coolest part, is he was a lot of these guys' boss. Like a lot of the coaches in the SEC right now that are head coaches were an assistant under Nick Saban at one point or another. Like Kirby, Billy Napier. I'm trying to think. Well, I'm already losing my train of thought.
Billy Napier, Kirby, Sarkisian. Let me think.
A lot of them, like one point or another, either indirectly or directly had.
It is funny that either you work for Saban or you like Clark Lee was under Brian Kelly. Mike Elko was under Brian Kelly. So a lot of these older coaches are now all coming up in the midst of one another.
Yeah, and I think that's what's made this coverage for this year so much more intimate. And I think it makes it a lot more cool that we're like almost a part of the brotherhood that's happening with this. I will say the one comment that was really funny, and it was kind of one of the things that we wrote down for topics today, was him taking a little bit of a jab at Sarkisian and Texas, a little bit of a response from Sarkisian in his opening remarks today. But I love how he took the time to point out that he does not think that Texas is going to just walk right in and start running the SEC like a lot of Texas fans have expected that they were going to.
Well, look, I think that there are a couple things that Saban is trying to defend. Saban knows where his butter is going to be made, and that being obviously in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. He's not going to go against DeBoer. Okay, he's not going to, give Texas any kind of pedestal over DeBoer, and he sure as hell's not going to give it over Kirby, right? Yeah. And to be honest with you, he's not going to give it over Lane. So
Lane's another coach who he coached, but continue. Sorry.
Right. I don't think that there is a situation where you look at Saban and look, he's playing into what he needs to play into, right? And he's like a lot of us. I think what people are seeing with that is that Saban thinks like a lot of fans do. You never knew it. You never believed it. One of his players today, I think it was Jalen Milroe, came out and said that Saban, has been spitting out a lot of rat poison this week. And so kind of being in a different role, I do think that he kind of got a little aggravated today and yesterday when he was talking football. And like, I think Roman Harper says, yeah, coach, you got to explain it. He's telling them that on set. And he got frustrated by it. And that's going to take some time. Look, Joe, this isn't easy, us coming out here and doing what we do. I do 7 shows at minimum a week. And so do you, if I'm not mistaken. So, it is very difficult to come out here and do this for a long time. He'll be better at that. But I don't think that he's wrong. So all of that being said, I don't think Saban's wrong. I think it's a conversation that you and I have had, or at least I know that I've been saying it. I can't necessarily always speak for you because sometimes I think you say something and maybe I'm just wrong. Mm-hmm. I really don't think that they can come into this league and have a game like Houston and get out unscathed. And that is going to be the biggest question mark. And by the way, look, Alabama, you lost, with their new coaching staff, you lost to Kalen DeBoer, right? Like they lost to Kalen DeBoer with a roster that was much more talented than Washington's was. So there just comes a part where, Joe, I'm waiting for that Kentucky game. Like if you're banged up, does Kentucky surprise some people? So those are the things. But I do think that Sark handled it well today. I like legitimately in the burnt orange jacket that he had.
Yeah, the main point that you're making there is it's really interesting hearing somebody like Saban share a comment like that. And I don't think it was directed at Sarkisian, but rather directed at the perspective of Texas fans and the Texas athletic department that they think, oh, they could just step right in and be a really competitive team now that they're getting more money from broadcasting revenue, now that they're giving a more flourishing opportunity to continue to grow in a conference that is set up for long-term success. But there is a lot of truth in what he pointed out. In the Big 12, since Mac Brown, they have not been consistent. And if anything, they have been piss poor. They have been way below the expectation of what Texas football is supposed to be. Now, there is a world where we're seeing there is a lot of financial commitment, and in the modern version of college football with NIL and the transfer portal, they can succeed because they've got more damn money than they know what to do with, and they're spending it aggressively. The teams that are spending aggressively tend to be the ones that do the best, as we're seeing over the past couple of seasons. There is a world that Texas can be a top 3 team in the conference for the next decade plus until things end up changing and the sport changes again. But at the end of the day, Saban is right. There's no proof of concept. They haven't proven recently. If anything, they've been on the downside until this most recent 2023 season when they went to the playoff. They need to really, really prove themselves this season, I think, for us to feel much more confident about their long-term future.
I think Cole Kublik says it best, and I was listening to him today. Joe, we in this league, and this happens every year, and he reminds us at SEC Media Days every single year, we logo chase, right? Meaning, so we look at like Oklahoma's schedule and say that it's going to be harder, than Texas's is. We do this every year in this conference. Joe, realistically, no one saw Missouri coming out of left field the way that they did. This time last year, we were talking about Eli Drinkwitz being on the hot seat, being fired, right? And then they come out of nowhere. They have an 11-win season. And so who's going to be that team? Because it happens every single year that a team in the SEC rises. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Joe, pivoting off of this, though, I don't know if you can walk out of SEC Media Days no matter what's said for the rest of the week or what anybody says about SEC Media Days this week, than Greg Sankey's statements. Talking about, the Southeast is going to remain the Southeast, meaning he was taking a shot at the Big Ten. He was taking a shot at the ACC, saying we are going to stay in the Southeast. We are a conference that's going to be in the Southeastern Conference. That's what our name is. He also talked about, Joe, what the Big 12 is trying to go through in doing the what do you call it again? That it's going to be an all-state 12.
Naming rights.
Naming rights. And that they're not going to do that. But the biggest thing that he said this week that I think everybody has been chirping about on Twitter, that everybody thought that this was happening, was that Florida State, Clemson, or North Carolina is coming into the SEC. Greg Sankey, quote unquote, today said, look, Georgia was one of the best 4 teams a year ago and only lost 1 game. But what did we not do in the SEC? We didn't pout. We didn't gloat. We didn't make it to the playoffs. We weren't crying. He's taking a shot at Florida State. Yeah. A commissioner that's about to bring that team into this conference is not saying that. So all those people that were out there saying, hey, man, the Big 12's going to get 12%. The Big 12 might get 12% to Florida State and Clemson to come into the conference. Joe, they might not be wrong. And so, look, I have listened to Greg Sankey for the last 7 years at every SEC Media Days. He will always come out there and tell you without telling you what is about to happen. And I don't want to say he's an open book, but he's giving you the answers to the test without giving you the answers to the test. So, Joe, I think realignment has got to be the biggest thing that came out of this week. I just don't know if the SEC is going to expand more than 16 teams.
The other comment that he made, and I wish I wrote it down, should do my notes better. But it was along the lines, it was along the lines of him saying they're not actively recruiting, but they are paying attention to what's happening. That was along the lines of what he said. That, to me, I think really does ultimately paint the picture. There is a very stark difference from the tone of what people were talking about with the Big 12 and what was happening here this week at SEC Media Days. There's not even a chirp. There's not even a murmur of them potentially adding Florida State or Clemson. There was the Brett McMurphy article that came out, which isn't really advanced talks or advanced movement on that. It's still really speculation. I think a lot of people are just throwing out there the possibility of what could happen. But there was a lot of talk last week.
Look,
and I don't think that there's
to rudely interrupt you. Look, Bill King has been the voice of college football when XM first came out. Mm-hmm. And to his credit, he said the same thing Brett McMurphy said. But when Bill said, like, bro, if people aren't listening to him, they need to. He's not wrong. The dude has more connections than AT&T Tower, okay? So that was a good one. That was a good one. All I'm saying is, Joe, regardless of where they go, regardless of what they do, it doesn't matter to the SEC. Like, that's what I took. He's nonchalantly taking shots at Florida State. Joe, you do not do that if you're about to bring some ACC teams in here. Another statement that he had this week, Joe, forgive me, I think it was on Arkansas radio this week. Sankey also came out and basically said, listen, we're trying to make sure that everybody in the conference is financially stable, but you got to remember, I work for presidents of universities. I know that I'm the commissioner of the conference, but they are over me. And you know, it's so crazy that he's been this much of an open book about realignment and all of this, because there's always that speculation, and him coming out behind today and standing behind the ACC. You know, like, I mean, Joe, why would he come out and stand behind the ACC? And then if you saw today, which I'm sure we'll get to at some other point, the ACC is now having to make legal all of their books to the public, right? Yep. And so there comes a point where you got the biggest name in college athletics. Let's call him what he is at this current moment because of how much weight he holds. He's back in the ACC. What does Greg Sankey know that I don't? Obviously, it's a lot, but it just doesn't feel like anything that we've ever discussed about realignment in Florida State.
And before we get anyone in the comments that does you don't know what you're talking about, we're purely speculating, just reading what's being said. And a lot of it doesn't really require much context clues. All I'm saying is that we don't have any direct sourcing, but most people don't have direct sourcing. Anything could change. Anything absolutely could change. Could things flip on a dime and suddenly the Florida State's in the running to be in the SEC? That is totally on the table. But as things stand right now, it certainly doesn't make sense. It does not make sense for them financially to go and add Florida State. For the one point that you just brought up is that Sankey works for these school presidents. He is not some sort of business owner that runs the SEC with the intent of making it bigger and bigger. Ross Dellinger put out a really good piece this morning, I believe, or it was yesterday that he put out, where he was talking about all of the conversations with private equity that people have approached him for. And he doesn't take many of those meetings. He apparently had somebody reach out to him who had said something along the lines of, trying to put together a super league, and he just straight up avoided it. It's a very, really good piece for anybody. I encourage everybody to go read that story. It was really great read this morning. But if he's avoiding these things, that's pretty clear that he's just doing what is going to make the conference as good and as competitive as possible and make the presidents happy. Florida State doesn't make the presidents feel better. It doesn't. You add another team in that could possibly go 8-4 if things don't go well and they have a mediocre season. Most of the teams in the conference are not going to be happy with more competition.
I don't know about that, but Joe, I can only speak for myself. I'm not speculating because there's no way in blue hell that he's going to run out there and take a shot.
But no one's called you and said this is happening. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, well then you're going to.
We don't have sourcing. We don't have sourcing that needs to be brought up when we talk about these things.
But you're going to have to explain to me the commissioner going out there and taking a shot at Florida State today.
By definition, that is speculation. We're reading into something that was said, and we are analyzing it. That is speculation.
Okay, so you don't want to get ripped in the. The comments.
That's not why I'm saying this. That's not why I'm saying this.
Then you explain to me. I'll just shut up and let you answer your own question. What is he saying there then? If he's not taking a shot at him, what is he saying?
He definitely is taking a shot at them.
Okay,
anything
so we're
can change.
Then we're not speculating.
Robbie,
We got to live by what he says. And Joe, I'm telling you, this man is not going to run out here and say that he ain't adding them.
If he's not telling us directly, we have to interpret it. He didn't say to us, we're not adding Florida State. So we don't know for a guaranteed fact of what's going to happen. The only thing I'm just trying to set up here, or not set up, the only point I'm just trying to make is that there is still some chance that things could change. There is.
You ever seen Rocky IV?
Is that the one with Drago?
Yeah, that's the one with Drago.
Yeah.
Remember when Adrian came to the cabin in Russia, and then the scene broke black, and the next thing was Rocky training, and it was him training to the song "No Easy Way Out." That's what the path you're taking away. No easy way out.
I'm taking the easy way out. Is that what you're saying?
Because you don't want.
No, I'm not.
You don't want the Florida State fans on your ass again.
That's not what. I don't care if they're on my ass. I don't care at all.
Oh.
All I'm trying to say that anything in this. Did you think on July 17th of 2023 that Oregon and Washington were going to be in the Big Ten?
Yes.
Stop. No one in their right mind thought that was going to happen.
No, I think
2 years prior, did you think USC and UCLA were going to the Big Ten?
I did not. But here's the thing, though. Kevin Warren wasn't out there publicly taking shots at any of those schools.
Tell me, we're going into semantics here.
We're not going into semantics.
I love the nature of the show that you're sitting here debating me if we're going into the semantics of an argument or
about
not.
And circled around an argument.
We've gone too long without doing a show. This is why we can't take more than 2 shows off. We can't. It's all pent up.
Anything from any of the coaches that you heard that you wanted to bring up?
I know that we're going to talk about the horns down stuff later. I did want to talk about Kirby's comments that were brought up in regards to the driving incidents. So we didn't have a show this weekend to cover this, but there were more driving incidents. Smile Munden was one of the players. They were racing. I don't want to totally recap the full details because there's police reports, there's all that stuff that can be pulled up and get that information. But it's yet another driving incident with this team a year and more after a member of the Georgia team died in a serious car accident. We all remember what happened with Jalen Carter, all that stuff. And I found it really interesting because post the Mike Gundy situation, a lot of people were kind of thinking, well, how do we hold players accountable? Because Gundy basically said, this kid's making money now, I can't do anything. And I was really surprised by the way that Kirby handled this. Some tried to claim like Kirby brushed this off and made it seem like he didn't address it. I completely disagree. The comment made by Kirby, the NIL collective has fined players substantially. We've dismissed players that have been involved, and I'm talking about like routine traffic, repeated violations. I actually think the best key is the pocket because you look at what the NFL has done. Their model is defined. And if you ask any of our players what they would rather have, they want their money. When I say substantial, very substantial in terms of the hits that some guys have taken. So we don't know the amounts that they're losing, but it's really interesting that Georgia is taking this NFL approach to handling the situation.
Side note, very quickly, I have the comment I have the same comment you do about Kirby.
Yeah.
The comment that's going to be missed here because it's circled around so much awful things, okay, is that Kirby, okay, basically showed and told the world, hey, we're a massive player in the NIL game, which we all knew. Okay, but in his own way, I mean, the collective is finding players.
Yeah.
So we won't talk about that. That will be missed. But don't ever tell me that they're not paying kids top dollar to go to the University of Georgia. I agree with you, Joe. You know what the conclusion after what Kirby said, the conclusion I came to? I literally have no idea what else he can do.
There's nothing else. There's nothing else.
I don't know. So here's what needs to happen. Somebody in that locker room has got to start changing things. The only way things get better is if somebody stands up in that locker room and does it. But Joe,
Carson Beck, apparently that was what was brought up this week, was that apparently he had stepped up and confronted his teammates for the issues.
It's not working. So then, I mean, you can't tell me that that's not the first time that somebody has said something. Somebody is going to have to get into there and start changing things. You know what, man? Take something more from them. Take something more from them. You know what I'd do if I was Kirby? I would legitimately take all their swag for a game. Don't let them have any swag. Play like South Alabama. Take all their swag away and
they got swag at South Alabama. What do you?
No. Like take all their gloves away, their wristbands, their the fancy stuff that they wear on the sideline. Hey, if you really want to implement change, then implement it.
Well, they really should suspend these guys. They are
suspending them though.
Trevor Etienne didn't get a suspension, did he?
Well, his case also got dropped. Didn't it not?
Oh, did it? I didn't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it got dropped. I mean, again, I'm not going to convict a man for something that he didn't do.
Was it dropped because he didn't do it, or was it? It
was a lack of evidence, if I'm not mistaken. One of the Georgia players, their case got dismissed. It might not be Etienne, so forgive me if I'm misspeaking. I will go and find who it is specifically.
That's just like when I had alcohol in my car when I was in college, and a cop just told me, "Hey, you can go." When I told him I was on the football team, but I'm just saying that, like, I don't know how legit that is.
At some point, but we can't move the goalposts like that. We can't move the goalposts in reference to is law and order right when it just suits us best, right? Like we can't do that. Did the case get dropped or did it not get dropped? If he was found innocent, then God damn it, he's innocent.
Was dropping it finding him innocent, or is it?
Yeah, when you come out with a statement that says lack of evidence.
I don't want to go down there.
Yeah, either way, I don't know what else he can do. I legitimately don't. Do you look at the collective thing as anything? Am I misreading that? Is that something that's going to get missed?
In what?
Well, because he said the collective is fining people. Okay. Well, how much are you fining them? Are you fining them by a percentage? Like, what's going on here? Because I mean, Joe, it's if Kirby came out, take every other part of the context away. And Kirby Smart came out and said, when players have infractions, the collective gives them fines and penalties. Mm-hmm. What would that story have read? Georgia collective fines players.
Well, I'm just a little confused by what angle you're taking.
In the statement, Kirby came out and said our collective is fining players.
Yes.
Take all the reckless driving away from what he said. And if Kirby just came out and said, hey, when our players get in trouble, our collective fines them. And that
so you're saying if there was less severity to their actions,
yes,
you're bringing
up. Like the media would have been completely overreacting to a head coach suspending or fining a player.
Yes and no. I think that because it got brought up with the Ollie Gordon situation, and that was a singular incident. There's not a litany of Oklahoma State players getting DUIs. It was one player, and then it was a terrible comment by a coach that blew the situation up more than it needed to be. I think that conversation was brought up of finding players, like who could potentially hold these players accountable when they make mistakes and they do something illegal. I still stand by. I think that it is the right course of action. If suspensions are something that you don't want to do, a lot of these kids, premier players, Smile Munden, Trevor Etienne, they are making six figures plus. If you're fining them $10,000-$15,000 for a driving incident or whatever, even if they do get off for doing it, it's the only way to really hold guys accountable. Because a lot of these guys, like in the NFL, you want to keep every dime that you can get. You don't know what you're going to be doing after football.
Fair. Don't speed. I mean, look, it is an issue.
I mean, it's gotten progressively worse. Did you read the report of what the most recent one is? It was really stupid.
I mean, is it getting worse or is it just staying the same? You can't get worse than somebody dying.
Yes, it's getting worse in the sense that all of the incidents are the same and the amount of them are going up. Like the key, it's a very common theme. I just am so
remember in 23 they had 22 of them. Now the end of the year's not here, but I mean they had a lot in 2023.
Well, not all of them were racing and stuff. But in all seriousness, it's kind of like a dumb way to look at it. But is there some sort of thing going on in their locker room where like they're betting each other who's going to get places first or something like that? Like every team has weird rituals that they all adhere by, where like maybe they're betting $1,000 on who's going to get to dinner first or something like that. Like I don't know what is
and it's not
motivating
like Kirby,
this.
Well, it's not like Kirby and his staff doesn't have deep implementation of like penalties. I mean, it's not like he runs a reckless program, because everything besides this one thing that's just not Kirby Smart. But if I'm going to be honest, Joe, you know who had this same exact issue was Nick. People forget, like Nick used to, for like a 7-year stretch, used to have massive, and I mean massive, stories come out about his players, guns, weed, dope. I mean, and it was insane. So I just want to say it's kind of, when the elite teams just recruit a different type of player than others.
Well, I think, though, that what makes it really different is that it's so specific what's happening with Georgia. And also to kind of clarify what you're saying, I think that a lot of times when you're a 5-star recruit and somebody buys you a car and, you think you're going on to the league and you think you're untouchable, where there's probably are situations where, you do something dumb and somebody's going to maybe help you get out of it because of how important you are to the community in the university. Sometimes you're not going to think that when you think there's no consequences is when you do stupid things. I forget who was the one Eagles and Packers defensive end who died in a motorcycle accident. I'm blanking on what his name is, but I remember watching a Football Life documentary, and I think it was his wife or somebody was talking about how he thought he was untouchable and he was going too fast on a motorcycle, and that was what ended up killing him. It's just kind of in that same vein. You're the best team in the country. You're all the best recruits in the country playing for the best team. Maybe a lot of these guys just think that nothing bad's going to happen to them if they keep speeding. Maybe I'm just so confused on like why it's the same thing every single time.
I don't know. I mean, look, if Kirby knew, it would be over with. You can't convince me that Kirby Smart, if he knew what the root issue was, that he wouldn't fix it. Like if it was some guys in the locker room that were bad, I mean, look, man, he would, if it got to the point where he needed to kick them off. Now, if they were good enough, he wouldn't. But I mean, like, let's just be honest. I mean, this is a multi-layer recruiting issue. It's not necessarily a player, or I don't know what it is, but the simple nature, I want to say this too now, some of the incidents have been very stupid. In Athens PD, you talk to the media around there, they will tell you, speed through Athens, you're going to jail. So I don't want to overreact. Now, what this past case was, okay, that's ridiculous. But Joe, like somebody accidentally going down a one-way.
Yeah, that one should not have.
Okay. I mean, probably didn't mean it. Young kid, turn him around, let him go. As someone who was in law enforcement for over a decade or close to, Joe, turn the kid around, tell him to stop. Like not everybody's got to get arrested, get a summons, get a ticket, or go to jail. People are people. So I just want to say that too. All right. You want to get to a quick break and then we'll come back and horns down and then wrap up everything?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Oh my God. We're back next. Stay with us.
Ruffino and Joe Show is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, which is the best, without a doubt, premium collegiate apparel brand that is out there. They have over 150 different colleges that you can choose from, whether you're an Illinois fan or a Rutgers fan. Maybe you're an LSU fan like Blake, or maybe you're an Alabama fan. whatever it is, even Idaho. They have so many different designs for so many different football programs that I can guarantee you're going to find some great stuff to help root for your favorite team. I've already gotten my Notre Dame stuff. Blake has his LSU stuff. Make sure you head on over to homefieldapparel.com to check out your team's collection of clothing apparel that they have on the website. And when you do so, when you check out, make sure you use promo code Ruffino Joe to get 15% off your order. That is RUFFINO Ruffino Joe. Head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your college gear today.
Did you see today with Texas, just so many people wanting to talk about Arch Manning? Meanwhile, here is Quinn Ewers. I still just
kind of funny.
I get it's Arch Manning. Like I get all of that. Can we just get can we talk about Quinn Ewers? I mean, name
Quinn
another.
Ewers isn't super outgoing. I don't know. Maybe that's what that is.
Okay.
Neither is Arch, though, which is
how many other coaches have been asked about their backup quarterbacks?
Okay, God forbid Arch Manning was the most nationally covered recruit ever. It's going to happen.
He wasn't the most nationally recruit ever.
Not ever in the past. In the social media era, he was the most cut.
I still got to give that to Leonard Fournette.
It might be.
Leonard Fournette, people, you had to get me.
Yeah, but social media, like TikTok wasn't a thing. Instagram wasn't really a thing.
My generation made social media. I was born in the darkness.
I think that could be a little debate on that as well.
You were in kindergarten when I formed my Twitter, okay?
That's just not true. You're not 45. Let's
all right.
It's just like what I have said though a couple of weeks ago with Colorado, and why I'm sick of talking about them is because the media constantly just keeps churning it because it gets clicks. So a lot of some of the bigger entities are the ones who want to keep asking about Arch Manning because all they need is one quote from Sark, one quote from Quinn Ewers, and you can write your article for the day that says Quinn Ewers said this about Arch Manning. It's really stupid. It's one of the things I hate about working for a big media company is that they're victims of that.
I got to tell you something that you're not going to like, or maybe you will because you put the horns down earlier. Mm-hmm. I'm glad Greg Sankey and the officials have a set of balls and won't be flagging teams for horns down because Joe, our good friends over at Crane & Company, Jake Crane, Blaine, and David, I sent this to Jake I think yesterday on Twitter. Did you know yesterday marked 3 years that me and Jake were on a podcast together in Atlanta and we were talking about the Big 12 fining, teams or not fining teams, but flagging teams if they did the horns down motion in the Big 12. Basically, the SEC dropped their nuts and said, "Get over it. This is the SEC. You're going to get over it." And you know what, man? I know it doesn't sound like a massive win. But what does it matter? And here's the thing, Joe. That's what builds rivalry. We talk about the 2019 LSU team as an example. The Clyde Edwards-Helaire horns down in the end zone in the face of all the dudes in Texas. All of the Oklahoma tradition that they have of dudes doing horns down.
Yeah.
It builds the rivalry. Why would you take that away from us?
I loved Billy Bowman's comments where he said it shouldn't be a penalty anyway. Everyone has a hand signal. If you let a hand signal affect you and affect the game, maybe you shouldn't be there. Just calling the Big 12 soft. You bring up the really best point. In pockets of college football, not just bitter rivalries, but just pure hatred, just visceral, complete hatred is what makes the sport fun. It really does. And I'm not advocating for hate, but when there's just so much contention between teams on the field where you can just feel it every time the ball is snapped, that is what makes the game more exciting. It is a battle. This isn't badminton. This is football. You're punching each other in the mouth every single play, in the chest. You're knocking guys over. It is the most physical, one of the most physical popular sports in the world. Having this a part of it, I think I'm glad that the SEC realized, hey, if this is a part of this rivalry and other teams doing it to them, and it feeds into a narrative and it feeds into the coverage. It makes the broadcasts better. It makes the post-game and pre-game more exciting. That's great. You know what I love that might come off a little bit weird? I love it when away players go to the middle of the field and either start talking shit to opponents or they start like stomping on the midfield logo. I love when the game starts off with that much intensity. That's intense.
I don't like that. There's got to be a level of respect. A horns down is not standing in the middle of your field trashing your team's logo.
When it was, I think it was Devin Bush did it.
Devin Bush did it. The most famous one was, when Baker Mayfield and Kansas didn't shake hands, and then he grabs his nuts on the sidelines.
Yep.
Such a weak. So, guys, don't do that. It's a weak move. But I think there's got to be a level of respect. I don't know of any Texas fans that really hate this. And if you do hate it, get over it because it's going to happen a lot. Here's the thing that I think it echoed more than anything. This doesn't happen without Greg Sankey. And Joe, basically, he told all the other 15 teams, we're not pandering to them, and we're not going to. I know it's a small gesture. I know people will be like, well, Blake's overreacting. I'm not overreacting. The biggest concern for a lot of teams in adding Texas and Oklahoma, ironically, has been that Sankey and the SEC has been pandering to Texas. They've been pandering to Oklahoma. No, they haven't been. Like that, no, I mean, anytime that a team comes into the conference, you're going to welcome them. I thought it was weird that the Big Ten didn't do more in welcoming the teams that they have coming in. I thought it was kind of like a little bit of a shot, but Southern Hospitality.
Well, they have another media days.
No, but you don't remember on July the 1st? I mean, Texas had a big event. Greg Sankey was there. Yeah. Oklahoma. I mean, he was there in Oklahoma the following day. All I am saying.
Well, that was Texas and Oklahoma throwing their own parties. Like they threw their own.
Yeah, but your commissioner's still there.
Yeah,
just means more. Look, I really like the move as a conference. If I'm them, okay, we're here to play big boy football now. Now let's start getting to the real nitty gritty because all of this celebration, like Joe, we just asked earlier. Can Texas realistically come into the SEC and be a playoff contender? I think that's everybody's biggest question. Now, I will remind people, when Missouri did come in the conference, they went to the SEC championship game twice.
And what has A&M done? But on Texas's point, I will admit, and I've as the amount of appearances I've done on radio spots have kind of started to ramp up. I get asked a lot about Texas or just which teams are going to be the best in the SEC. And the more I look at it, they also have a really winnable schedule. They play Georgia and they've got a pretty relatively easy path. A couple of roster holes. We're going to get to that when we do our deep dive for them very soon. That should probably be in the next couple of weeks. They are in a really good position to at least get to the playoff. Maybe they probably won't win the SEC because of the juggernaut that they have to face. But there is a lot of runway for them to get to the playoff. And heck, if they finish as the third best team in the conference with one loss and somebody finishes ahead of them, maybe it's Ole Miss that goes to the SEC championship games. I'm just kind of throwing a name out there. That might be to their benefit that they get a higher seed because they've got one loss and they get to host a home game. I will say it'd be pretty cool to see that stadium, that atmosphere hosting a playoff game. I think that would be a really cool way to welcome the college football playoff expansion.
I think it will too. I am really rooting for chaos so that we do see a lot of playoff games at home venues. I really want to see that. Like, I want to see, I'm just throwing out two random teams here. I want to see Penn State go down to Alabama and play. Like, I never get to see that. I want to see Texas go to Ohio State. I mean, I know Ohio State's played more of those kind of games, but you get my point here. Like, I want to see that actually happen. Joe, could you imagine, between me and you both, if Notre Dame came down to Baton Rouge this year?
People keep saying that. I feel like we're not going to get that. Even if they were like a projected matchup, I feel like we're still not going to get it.
Oh, man, what a game that would be. Could you imagine?
That would play even more of a rivalry.
Oh, dude, we got to be there. We can't miss out on that one. It would be your
We can
time.
get tickets, expensive. It's probably going to be good at that.
You're in the media. We'll use AYS credentials, baby. Let's go.
You try to use Believe credentials.
No, I don't need Believe credentials. Last thing for here on me about this. Look, bottom line for me is I thought this week has been a win so far for the SEC. We talked a lot about the SEC. I think everything that they've done this weekend has been a massive success. Any other comments or any other thoughts about SEC Media Days as we wrap the show up?
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head where it's just another great week where they completely dominate the news cycle. It just reaffirms everything that we know and that we've talked about with college football and where the SEC currently stands. I'm really curious, I will say this, and for next week, I really am curious how much coverage and attention we get from Big Ten Media Day, and if the same level of attention to detail
I don't think it will be
there.
Do you think it will be? Because I don't.
Well, I mean, there are some really interesting storylines that are going to come out of that. There's going to be a lot of talk about Jerome Moore, and is he going to be suspended? And Tony Petitti's probably going to get asked a lot about that. Ryan Day, what the expectations for him coming into the season? Dan Lanning, what does Dan Lanning look presenting himself in at that environment?
There's only one storyline that I got to hear. You know what? Or I want to hear Tony Petitti when he gets asked. Realignment. Joe, if he comes behind Greg Sankey and backing the ACC, Joe, we might be set for a minute here. We might be set. I'm not saying that realignment won't happen. I'm not, I will concede your point. I'm not going to say that won't happen. But if he follows and echoes Greg Sankey, then, dude, I'm not going to say we're starting to get out of the woods on some of this, but I feel like we could be.
Not permanently, but yeah, I think that there will be at least a slowdown. I think at the very least, if Petitti
could we go an entire offseason not talking about realignment?
I think if Petitti poo-poos it and shuts it down like you're talking about, it would at least push this all the way back until the end of the ACC media rights deal. And when there would be a legitimate out for Florida State and Clemson. I think that would be the recourse to that. I think if it does get shut down, it's going to be for a while.
It might be. Maybe we're finally getting out of the woods here. I got to pull this up. And no, I'm not pulling this up because it's my favorite school. It's because we have a super chat from our good friend Adam. DJ Pickett, let's go, baby, with a $699 Canadian dollars here. Joe, Brian Kelly has a number 3 recruiting class in the country, labeled by 3 5-stars here.
Let's hope he keeps all of
them.
He lost one. I think he'll be fine, but
he lost
to Corey Moore.
I'm not giving him that.
Why? You think DeCorey Moore's coming
back? No,
back?
You know why I'm not giving him that? Because he's got 3 of the top 9 players in the country. If anybody else was doing that, we would be bragging. You know who else is kind of doing that? It was Dan Lanning, and I've got to be a little honest with you. If it was Dan Lanning doing this, it would be a different conversation. Now that Brian Kelly's doing it.
What about Kalen DeBoer? Kalen DeBoer had himself a weekend.
He doesn't have 3. He doesn't have 3 top 10 players though, Joe.
I don't think he's very far off.
Yeah, he is.
I'm looking this up. He pulled 2 5-stars this weekend.
Yeah, but not, again, 3 top 10 players.
He pulled the number 11 player in Ty Haywood, and then Caleb Cunningham was the 14th overall player.
Any in the top 10?
He had no, but he's got 1, 2.
Bryce Underwood.
He has 4 5-stars, and they're ranked first right now. By the way,
you're on 247
on 30. They do the composite one, which is the one that I like.
Okay. I just find it funny that Notre Dame fans said that they wouldn't be able to come here and recruit. That's all.
I find it funny that LSU fans thought Marcus Freeman couldn't recruit.
We never said that. I never once said that Marcus Freeman couldn't recruit. Name one. All right.
I'm not going to remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
There have been many battles where you've laughed at me when they've lost a kid.
Yeah, like you would do with me. Three top 10 players, Joe.
I need this goddamn season to start. We need some football. It's too goddamn close. We need the season to start.
We'll see y'all on Sunday. Y'all have a good one. Peace.